Hi everybody, today I'm talking about contracts. The difference between valid, voidable, and void. I'll say it again. Valid, voidable, and void. It's very important you know the difference between these three elements. So first let's go over valid. Valid is a contract that has all four essential elements. What are those four essential elements? Mutual consent, capable parties, lawful object, and consideration. I'll say it again. Capable parties, consideration, lawful object, and mutual consent. So I changed up the order because the order doesn't really matter. As long as you remember those four essential elements: mutual consent, lawful object, consideration, and capable parties. If all four essential elements are there, you have a valid contract. Next up, you have voidable. Voidable is a contract that has all those four essential elements, but it could be rescinded for one reason or another. For example, if you sign to buy a house and your understanding is that it's blue and you sign to buy a blue house and you show up and the house is yellow, you have a voidable contract because you have the right to proceed. You may have wanted a blue house, or you may not have cared what color it was because you were going to paint it anyway. Therefore, it doesn't matter that it was yellow. You have the right to proceed or the right to rescind. Therefore, it's voidable, not void. Another example of a voidable contract is if you're put under duress. So if you're put under duress, like undue pressure, or if you're threatened, the contract's voidable. So if you have a house you want to buy, and the agent's like, sign the contract or I'm going to punch you in the face or something horrible. If they're really coming at you, put it on pressure, say, you better sign it or else I'm... You have the right to rescind, but you also have the right to go through with it. That agent threatening you or putting you under duress should not take away your right to purchase the property. You could just say, hey, relax, crazy. I was going to buy it anyway. And they could be like, ooh, sorry, my bad. A lot of pressure these days. So that's an example of a voidable contract. So a voidable contract has the elements, but you have the right to rescind. And a void contract, very simply, is a contract that lacks one of those four essential elements. Therefore, there's no ability to go through with it. So a valid contract has all those four essential elements. Voidable has the elements, but you have the right to rescind. And void lacks one of those four essential elements I mentioned before, which was mutual consent, lawful object, consideration, and capable parties. Now, since we're talking about this, I should mention the unenforceable contract. This confuses people a lot. So an unenforceable contract is a contract that is not enforceable in the court of law. Now, what makes this unique is it doesn't apply to all contracts. For example, when you talk about contracts must be in writing. Not all contracts need to be in writing. The rules for which contracts can be in writing can differ. The contracts that do need to be in writing, all right, and are not in writing would be unenforceable. You may have heard of something called the statute of frauds. That helps dictate what must be in writing and what must not be in writing. Statute of limitations has to do with time. So certain contracts have time limits, certain don't. Or should I say the time limits differ based upon the contracts. That makes it unenforceable if it violates that statute of time that's dictated by the statute of limitations. Now, if you notice when I was talking about what's unenforceable and what's not, I was saying it differs for each contract. That is not true for something that is void. When something is void, it lacks those four essential elements, and that applies to all the contracts. That's the big difference. Okay? So, try and make a note of the difference between unenforceable and void. People get it confused sometimes. When we're talking about unenforceable, you hear about the statute of frauds and statute of limitations. Statute of frauds dictates what must be in writing, and statute of limitations dictates time. I hope that helps. And I'll see you guys in the webinars. Bye.